The morning sun rose over Harmony 7, painting the sky in bright oranges and pinks. The human colony had been a home to thousands for 20 years now. It was a place where Earth customs mixed with new ways of living on this distant planet. Director Taiwan Kim walked quickly through the main school building. Today was important. Very important. For the first time, leaders from the Vaxari Confederation would visit their colony. Humans had only joined this group of alien species last year, and this visit could change everything. Are the students ready? Taiwan asked his assistant. Yes, sir. The top science class is prepared for the demonstration. Taiwan nodded. He had chosen Junho Lee's class to show the aliens what human education looked like. At 16, Junho was one of their brightest students. He and his friends had created an impressive gravity experiment that showed how well humans understood science. At the landing pad, Governor Han Suk-kang stood tall as the silver ship touched down. The wind from its engines made her formal jacket flap wildly. Next to her stood Hejun Park, the human ambassador who had worked so hard to get humans accepted into the Confederation. Remember, Hejun whispered, the Palaxians care most about respect and rules. The Drovics value strength, and the Luminary love knowledge. The ship's door opened with a soft hiss. First came Ambassador Xorl of the Palaxians. He was tall and thin with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. His face showed no emotion as he bowed slightly. Behind him stalked Commander Gratak of the Drovics. Short but muscular, with thick reddish scales and a wide mouth full of teeth. He did not bow but thumped his chest once. Last came Scholar Elphys of the Luminary, floating a few inches above the ground. Her semi-transparent body glowed with soft light, and her large eyes blinked slowly as she took in everything around her. Welcome to Harmony 7, said Governor Kang with a deep bow. We are honored by your visit. The honor is mutual, replied Xorl in perfect but mechanical-sounding human language. We are eager to see how humans live in the stars. The tour went well at first. The aliens seemed impressed by the colony's farms, power plants, and living areas. But it was the school that Governor Kang was most proud of. Human children are our greatest treasure, she explained as they walked through bright hallways covered with student artwork. Here they learned for 15 to 18 years before becoming full adults. Commander Gratak made a confused sound. So long. Our young are ready for battle by their 5th year. Different species, different ways, Scholar Elphys said softly. Her glowing form seemed interested in the children's drawings. They entered the science hall, where Junho and 5 other teenagers waited nervously with their project. It was a floating model of their solar system, held up by magnetic fields they had designed themselves. This is amazing work, Hejun said, trying to impress upon the aliens that this was something special. Junho stepped forward with a proud smile. We can show you how it works, he said, motioning to his friends, Min Su, Du Yun, Han Bin, Yi Jin, and Kita. They began adjusting the controls. But something went wrong. The magnetic field suddenly strengthened too much, and the metal model planets shot outward. Before anyone could react, one smashed into a strange crystal object hanging from Ambassador Xorl's 3rd arm. The crystal shattered with a sound like breaking glass. Blue fragments scattered across the floor. Silence fell. Every human in the room froze. Ambassador Xorl's face, usually so calm, twisted with rage. The sacred crystal of first contact, he hissed, a relic carried by Palaxians for 10,000 years. It was an accident, Junho said quickly, his face pale. We're so sorry. The ambassador's 4 hands trembled. This is a serious crime. These adults must be punished according to Confederation law. Hejun stepped forward quickly. Ambassador, please. They're just children. Children. Commander Gratak interrupted. They appear fully grown. No, Governor Kang tried to explain. In human development. Enough. Sorrel's voice cut through the room. Confederation law is clear. The punishment for destroying a sacred object is detention and trial. He pointed at Junho and his friends. These 6 have committed a serious offense against the Palaxian people. Governor Kang and Hejun exchanged worried looks. This first meeting with the aliens had just gone terribly wrong. The meeting room felt cold and tense. Governor Hyun-suk Kang sat across from the 3 alien representatives. Hejun Park stood nervously by the wall, trying to think of ways to fix this disaster. Ambassador Coral, Governor Kang said carefully, I understand the crystal was important. We will make it up to you. But these are children, not adults. Zoral's 4 hands tapped on the table. You keep using this word children. These humans are tall. They build complex machines. How are they not adults? Hejun stepped forward. In human biology, physical growth and mental development happen at different rates. Our brains continue to develop until about age 25. Commander Gratek laughed, a harsh sound like rocks falling. Ridiculous. A Drovak can fight, mate, and die for honor by age 7. Different species develop differently. Hejun tried again. Human teenagers are still learning. They make mistakes. When do you consider you're young to be adults? Asked Scholar Elphys, her glowing form pulsing with curiosity. Legally at 18, Governor Kang explained. But even then, their brains are still developing. Zoral's eyes narrowed. In Palaxian society, responsibility begins at age 7. Your teenagers appear much older than that. But they're not Palaxian, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Jai Ho Yoon. He was a young teacher, only 24, and taught Junho's science class. I'm sorry to interrupt, Jai Ho said, bowing quickly, but I must speak for my students. Governor Kang nodded for him to continue. These students are brilliant, yes, but they're still learning how to be adults. That's what makes humans special. We have a long learning period where mistakes are allowed. Sorrel stood abruptly. Confederation law does not recognize this learning period. The law states that any being capable of complex reasoning is responsible for their actions. But that's not fair, Jeho protested. Enough. Commander Gratek rose to his full height. This is a test, humans. You joined our confederation. Now you must follow our rules. Governor Kang felt trapped. Earth had worked for years to join the confederation. Humans needed the alien alliance for protection, trade, and new technology. If they refused to follow confederation law now, it could ruin everything. What exactly does your law require? She asked quietly. The offenders must be detained while awaiting a formal tribunal, Toril stated. This could take several Earth weeks. You want to jail our students? Jaiho was horrified. Not jail, Scholar Elphys corrected gently. A holding facility. They would be treated well. Governor Kang rubbed her temples. Can we discuss this privately? She asked the human staff. The aliens left the room. As soon as the door closed, the arguments began. We cannot put children in detention, Jeho insisted. If we refuse, we might lose our place in the Confederation, Hejun warned. That would affect billions of humans. Governor Kang paced the room. What about a compromise? We could create a comfortable holding area here at the school. They would be technically detained but not really imprisoned. It's still wrong, Jaiho said. What message does this send? It sends the message that we're willing to work within the system to change it, Hejun replied. If we reject Confederation law outright, we'll have no chance to fix this misunderstanding. After much debate, Governor Kang made her decision. She called the aliens back into the room. We will comply with Confederation law, she announced. But I request that the students be held here on Harmony 7, in a facility of our design, with full access to education materials and regular visits from teachers and parents. Sorrel considered this acceptable, but they must remain in custody until the tribunal. I'm sorry, Governor Kang said to Jaiho, who looked devastated. We need to show good faith while we work on a better solution. Later that day, Jun-ho and his 5 friends were moved to a converted section of the school dormitory. Guards were posted at the doors. Their parents were allowed brief visits to bring personal items. "It's not fair," Jun-ho said as the doors closed. He looked at his worried friends. "We didn't mean to break anything." Min-soo sat on one of the beds, looking scared. "Are we in real trouble?" Jun-ho thought for a moment, then straightened his shoulders. "We are, but we'll face it together. And maybe we can teach these aliens something about humans along the way." As night fell on Harmony 7, news of the detained teenagers spread across the colony. Parents were angry. Teachers were upset. And on Earth, when the report reached Space Force headquarters, Admiral Da-hyun Choi read it with growing alarm. "Prepare my ship," he ordered his staff. "And contact Dr. Soo-jin Ryu immediately. We're going to Harmony 7. 3 days had passed since the teenagers were detained. The news had spread through the colony like wildfire. Parents gathered outside the colony headquarters, holding signs that read, "Free our children," and "Kids are not adults." Inside the detention area, Jun-ho sat with his friends at a table. They had been given tablets for schoolwork, but not much else. "I'm so bored," said Do-hyun, pushing her tablet away. "This isn't fair." "At least we're together," Jun-ho said. He had been trying to keep everyone's spirits up. "And we still have our lessons." Kaita looked up from his tablet. "I've been reading about Palaxian culture. Their children start working at age 7. They don't have schools like ours." "That explains a lot," Hanbin said. "They don't understand what being a teenager means." Yi-jin, the youngest at 15, wiped away a tear. "I miss my parents." Jun-ho put his hand on her shoulder. "They'll visit again tomorrow. And we'll get through this." In the colony library, Jo-ho-yoon hadn't slept much in days. His desk was covered with tablets displaying Confederation laws and treaties. His eyes were red from reading. "Found anything useful?" asked Director Tadawon, bringing him a cup of coffee. "Maybe," Jae-ho said, taking the cup gratefully. "There's something called the Developmental Relativity Clause. It's rarely used, but it says species must be judged by their own biological standards." "That could help," Tadawon said. "But we need experts to make the case." "I heard Earth is sending someone," Jae-ho replied. "I just hope they arrive soon." Outside the detention area, Scholar Elphys floated silently, watching through the viewing window. She observed how the human teenagers studied together, helped each other, and even laughed sometimes despite their situation. "Fascinating," she murmured. Her species, the luminary, valued knowledge above all else. These young humans seemed naturally curious and adaptive. Observing the prisoners, Commander Gratak's rough voice interrupted her thoughts. "They don't behave like criminals," Elphys noted. "Breaking sacred objects is serious," Gratak replied. "The Palaxians are right to demand punishment. But look at them," Elphys insisted. "They organize their own study groups. They comfort each other. There is something different about them." "Different is not an excuse," Gratak said, walking away. Elphys continued watching. She was beginning to have doubts. At the colony spaceport, a sleek military vessel from Earth landed with a soft hum. Its doors opened to reveal Admiral Da-hyun Choi, a stern-faced man in his 60s with silver hair and the straight posture of someone who had served in space for decades. Behind him came Dr. Soo-jin Ryu, a woman in her 40s wearing simple civilian clothes. She carried several bags full of research materials. Governor Kang was waiting to meet them. "Admiral, Dr. Ryu, thank you for coming so quickly. When I heard human teenagers were being detained by aliens, I couldn't believe it," Admiral Choi said. His voice was calm, but there was anger in his eyes. "The situation is delicate," Governor Kang explained as they walked to her office. "We need to maintain our relationship with the Confederation while protecting our children." "That's why I'm here," Dr. Ryu said. "I've spent 20 years studying how different species develop. We need to make the aliens understand human childhood. The Pelaxians are stubborn, Governor Kang warned, and Ambassador Xoril is especially rigid about their laws. Then we'll need to be persuasive, Admiral Choi replied. I've brought something that might help. He handed Governor Kang a small data drive. This contains messages from 50 other species in the Confederation. Many of them have extended childhood periods too. They'd been hiding this fact to avoid Pelaxian judgment. Dr. Ryu nodded. This isn't just about 6 teenagers on Harmony 7 anymore. This could change how the entire Confederation treats developing beings. How soon can we meet with the alien delegation? Admiral Choi asked. Tomorrow morning, Governor Kang said. I'll arrange it. As they walked toward the colony headquarters, they passed a group of angry parents. One mother recognized the Admiral's uniform and approached. Are you going to free our children? She demanded. Admiral Choi looked her in the eyes. Ma'am, I promise you this. No human child will be judged by alien standards while I have anything to say about it. The woman nodded, tears in her eyes. Inside the detention area, Junho looked out the window at the stars. He couldn't know that those same stars now carried messages from dozens of worlds, all asking the same question. You jailed human kids. Have you lost your mind? The main conference room of Harmony 7 was filled to capacity. On one side sat the alien delegation, Ambassador Coral with his blue-gray skin and 4 arms folded tightly, Commander Gradak looking bored and dangerous, and Scholar Elphys, her glowing form hovering slightly above her chair. On the other side sat the humans, Governor Kang, Admiral Choi, Dr. Ryu, Ambassador Hejun, and Teacher Jai-Oh. Behind them stood several colony officials and a few parents of the detained teenagers. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Admiral Choi began. His voice was calm but firm. We are here to discuss a serious misunderstanding about human development. Ambassador Xoril's face remained cold. There is no misunderstanding. Your people broke our sacred object. They must face consequences. Before we discuss consequences, Dr. Ryu said, stepping forward, we need to establish facts about human biology. She activated a display screen on the wall. May I present some information? Commander Gradak grunted, which everyone took as a yes. Dr. Ryu began her presentation. Humans take approximately 25 years to fully develop their brains. Our bodies may look adult by age 16, but our minds are still growing. She showed brain scans with different colored areas. The part that makes good decisions is one of the last to mature. Fascinating, murmured Scholar Elphys, floating closer to see better. This extended period we call childhood and adolescence is not a weakness, Dr. Ryu continued. It's a strength. It allows humans to learn complex skills and adapt to many environments. Commander Gradak interrupted. Drovak Young are battle-ready by age 7. Your system seems inefficient. Different environments require different adaptations, Dr. Ryu replied. Humans evolved on a planet with many challenges. Our long learning period helped us survive. What does this have to do with breaking sacred objects? Ambassador Xoril asked impatiently. Admiral Choi stepped forward. Everything. You're treating these teenagers as fully responsible adults. By human standards, they are still developing. Their accident was just that, an accident during learning. Confederation law does not recognize this distinction, Ambassador Xoril insisted. Jai-Ho spoke up. Actually, it does. He held up his tablet. The Developmental Relativity Clause states that species must be judged by their own biological standards. Ambassador Xoril's eyes narrowed. That clause is rarely used. But it exists, Admiral Choi said firmly. And we're invoking it now. Meanwhile, in the detention area, Junho and his friends had created their own little school. They had pushed the beds against the walls and used the tables to make a circle in the center of the room. Today we're learning about alien cultures, Junho announced. He had taken on the role of teacher to keep everyone's spirits up. I've been reading about the luminary, said Yijin. They're made of energy and can live for hundreds of years. The Drovaks are warriors, added Minsu. They respect strength above all else. And the Palaxians love rules and order, Kita said. That's why they're so upset with us. Do Yun looked thoughtful. If we understand them better, maybe we can find a way to make them understand us. Han Bin nodded. We should make our own presentation about human teenagers, show them who we really are. That's a great idea, Junho said excitedly. Let's start working on it right now. Back in the conference room, Scholar Elphys was asking questions. If humans need so much time to develop, how do you teach them? She asked, genuinely curious. We have schools, Dr. Ryu explained, places where children learn in stages. First simple things, then more complex ideas as they grow. And you allow them to make mistakes. Scholar Elphys seemed amazed by this concept. Mistakes are essential to learning, Jaiho said. That's what happened with the crystal. It was a terrible accident during a learning process. Commander Gratak seemed less convinced. In Drovek culture, mistakes mean weakness. Weakness means death. Different species, different ways, Admiral Choi reminded him. Just as we wouldn't expect you to follow human customs, you shouldn't expect human children to be judged by Palaxian or Drovek standards. Ambassador Xorl was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I would like to observe these teenagers. To see this learning process. Governor Kang nodded. Of course. We can arrange that. As the meeting ended, Scholar Elphys approached Dr. Ryu privately. There is something you should know, she whispered, her glowing form dimming slightly as if to avoid attention. The Luminary also have a long development period. We keep it secret because the Palaxians and Droveks look down on species that develop slowly. Dr. Ryu's eyes widened. How many other species in the Confederation have extended childhood periods? Dr. Sujin Ryu hadn't slept in 2 days. Her room was filled with tablets, papers, and glowing screens. Cups of cold coffee sat forgotten on every surface. She was searching for something important, something that could save the teenagers. A soft knock came at her door. It was Jaiho, looking as tired as she felt. Any progress? He asked, sitting down among the mess of papers. Maybe, Dr. Ryu said. She pointed to an ancient-looking document on her main screen. Look at this. It's from the original founding of the Confederation, over 10,000 years ago. Jaiho leaned forward to read. The principle of developmental relativity. This looks like what I found, but much older and more detailed. Exactly. Dr. Ryu's eyes lit up with excitement. This isn't just some small clause. It's one of the founding principles of the entire Confederation. The document stated clearly, all sentient species develop according to their own biological timeline. No species shall impose its developmental standards upon another. Each must be judged by the norms of its own kind. This is perfect, Jaiho said. But why hasn't it been used before? Because, Dr. Ryu explained, over time, the Palaxians and Droveks became more powerful in the Confederation. They slowly pushed their quick development view on everyone else. Jaiho's face broke into a smile. But they can't ignore a founding principle. This is exactly what we need. In another part of the colony, the parents of the detained teenagers had gathered. They were collecting evidence, photos, videos, school records, anything that showed how human children develop. Look at this, said Junho's mother, showing a video of her son at age 5, then 10, then 15. You can see how much growing he still had to do at each stage. And these are brain scans, another parent added. They show how the decision-making parts of the brain are still developing in teenagers. Together, they created a powerful collection of evidence about human childhood from cultures all over Earth. They sent everything to Dr. Ryu to help strengthen her case. Admiral Choi sat in the colony's communication center, his face serious as he spoke to the screen. Thank you for your support, he said to the alien face looking back at him. It belonged to a representative of the Arborians, a tree-like species from a distant world. We Arborians take 70 years to reach full maturity, the alien replied, branches swaying gently. We have hidden this fact for centuries to avoid discrimination. It is time for change. Admiral Choi had contacted dozens of species across the Confederation. Many had responded with their own stories of extended childhood periods that they had hidden from the Palaxians and Drovex. With your permission, Admiral Choi said, I would like to include your statement in our appeal to the Confederation High Council. You have our full support, the Arborian replied. It is time all species accepted that different paths of development are natural and valuable. In the detention area, Ambassador Xorl watched silently as the 6 teenagers worked together. They were creating something they called a presentation about human development. Why do you work so hard on this? He finally asked. It will not change Confederation law. Junho looked up from his tablet. Maybe not, but we want you to understand us. That's important. Understanding is not necessary for law. Sorrel replied stiffly. Isn't it? Junho asked. If laws don't come from understanding, what are they for? Ambassador Xorl had no immediate answer. From across the room, Scholar Elphys watched this exchange with interest. She floated over to join them. Young human, she said to Junho, I have been observing you and your friends. You are still developing, yet you show remarkable abilities. That's because we're teenagers, Junho explained. We're not children anymore, but not fully adults either. We're in between. In between. Scholar Elphys repeated thoughtfully. Many species have this in-between stage, including my own. Ambassador Xorl turned sharply. Luminary reach full development at age 10. No, Scholar Elphys said firmly. That is what we tell the Confederation. In truth, we take 40 years to fully mature. We have hidden this fact to avoid judgment. Ambassador Xorl seemed shocked. This is unexpected. It is the truth, Scholar Elphys replied. And I believe it is time for all species to acknowledge their true development cycles. At that moment, Hajun Park entered the detention area. Ambassador Xorl, Scholar Elphys, he said with a formal bow. I must inform you that we have filed an official appeal with the Confederation High Council. On what grounds? Ambassador Xorl demanded. The principle of developmental relativity, Hajun replied. A founding principle of the Confederation that has been ignored for too long. Dr. Sujin Ryu hadn't slept in 2 days. Her room was filled with tablets, papers, and glowing screens. Cups of cold coffee sat forgotten on every surface. She was searching for something important, something that could save the teenagers. A soft knock came at her door. It was Jeho, looking as tired as she felt. Any progress? He asked, sitting down among the mess of papers. Maybe, Dr. Ryu said. She pointed to an ancient-looking document on her main screen. Look at this. It's from the original founding of the Confederation, over 10,000 years ago. Jeho leaned forward to read. The principle of developmental relativity. This looks like what I found, but much older and more detailed. Exactly. Dr. Ryu's eyes lit up with excitement. This isn't just some small clause. It's one of the founding principles of the entire Confederation. The document stated clearly, all sentient species develop according to their own biological timeline. No species shall impose its developmental standards upon another. Each must be judged by the norms of its own kind. This is perfect, Jeho said. But why hasn't it been used before? Because, Dr. Ryu explained, over time, the Palaxians and Drovex became more powerful in the Confederation. They slowly pushed their quick development view on everyone else. Jeho's face broke into a smile. But they can't ignore a founding principle. This is exactly what we need. In another part of the colony, the parents of the detained teenagers had gathered. They were collecting evidence, photos, videos, school records, anything that showed how human children develop. Look at this, said Junho's mother, showing a video of her son at age 5, then 10, then 15. You can see how much growing he still had to do at each stage. And these are brain scans, another parent added. They show how the decision-making parts of the brain are still developing in teenagers. Together, they created a powerful collection of evidence about human childhood from cultures all over Earth. They sent everything to Dr. Ryu to help strengthen her case. Admiral Choi sat in the colony's communication center, his face serious as he spoke to the screen. "Thank you for your support," he said to the alien face looking back at him. It belonged to a representative of the Arborians, a tree-like species from a distant world. "We Arborians take 70 years to reach full maturity," the alien replied, branches swaying gently. "We have hidden this fact for centuries to avoid discrimination. It is time for change." Admiral Choi had contacted dozens of species across the Confederation. Many had responded with their own stories of extended childhood periods that they had hidden from the Palaxians and Drovex. "With your permission," Admiral Choi said, "I would like to include your statement in our appeal to the Confederation High Council." "You have our full support," the Arborian replied. "It is time all species accepted that different paths of development are natural and valuable." In the detention area, Ambassador Xorl watched silently as the 6 teenagers worked together. They were creating something they called a presentation about human development. "Why do you work so hard on this?" he finally asked. "It will not change Confederation law." Junho looked up from his tablet. "Maybe not, but we want you to understand us. That's important. Understanding is not necessary for law." Sorrel replied stiffly. "Isn't it?" Junho asked. "If laws don't come from understanding, what are they for?" Ambassador Xorl had no immediate answer. From across the room, Scholar Elphys watched this exchange with interest. She floated over to join them. "Young human," she said to Junho, "I have been observing you and your friends. You are still developing, yet you show remarkable abilities." "That's because we're teenagers," Junho explained. "We're not children anymore, but not fully adults either. We're in between." "In between," Scholar Elphys repeated thoughtfully. "Many species have this in-between stage, including my own." Ambassador Xorl turned sharply. "Luminary reach full development at age 10. "No," Scholar Elphys said firmly. "That is what we tell the Confederation. In truth, we take 40 years to fully mature. We have hidden this fact to avoid judgment." Ambassador Xorl seemed shocked. "This is unexpected." "It is the truth," Scholar Elphys replied. "And I believe it is time for all species to acknowledge their true development cycles." At that moment, Hejun Park entered the detention area. "Ambassador Xorl, Scholar Elphys," he said with a formal bow. "I must inform you that we have filed an official appeal with the Confederation High Council." "On what grounds?" Ambassador Xorl demanded. "The principle of developmental relativity," Hejun replied. "A founding principle of the Confederation that has been ignored for too long." The Grand Hall of the Galactic Judicial Council looked nothing like a human courtroom. Massive holographic displays filled the space, casting shifting colors across the walls. Alien representatives from dozens of species sat in circular rows, their various body shapes and sizes creating a strange, living mosaic of galactic diversity. Jaehoon sat between his friends, his hands folded carefully on the smooth white surface of the witness table. Yuna was to his right, her posture straight but not rigid. Behind them, Diplomatic Officer Sung Min Cho watched with sharp eyes that missed nothing. The lead judge, a tall crystalline being named Vex Eren, struck a resonant tone that echoed through the hall. "Proceedings will now begin in the matter of human citizens versus Kregan security forces." The translator device converted the aliens' musical language into clear human speech. Kregan representatives looked nervous. Their scaled skin seemed to shift colors, a sign of stress that Yuna had learned during her xenolinguistics training. She made brief eye contact with Jaehoon, a silent communication that passed between them. Sung Min stepped forward first. His presentation was a masterpiece of diplomatic precision. Holographic evidence flickered to life. Security footage, communication logs, financial records. Each piece told a story of systematic discrimination and corruption. "The evidence is clear," Sung Min said, his voice calm and steady. These teenagers were not criminals. They were witnesses to a serious violation of interstellar law. The Kregan lead representative, Administrator Krell, tried to interrupt. "These humans are troublemakers." They disrupted. Silence. Vex Aren's tone cut through the hall like a blade. "You will present evidence, not accusations." Jae-hoon's moment came next. He walked to the central platform, connecting a small data chip to the main display. Instantly, the hall filled with decoded communication logs, messages that showed how Kregan officials had been taking bribes to fabricate charges against travelers from multiple species. The teenagers had spent their time in detention doing more than just surviving. They had gathered evidence, decoded encrypted messages, and built a case that was now unraveling the Kregan administration's entire corrupt system. Yuna followed, her testimony precise and measured. She explained how they had first discovered the corruption, how they had carefully collected evidence, and how they had maintained their composure even when facing unjust imprisonment. "We did not seek revenge," she said clearly. "We sought justice." The hall was silent. Even the most alien of representatives seemed captivated by the teenagers' calm, methodical presentation of facts. Administrator Krell's defense crumbled piece by piece. Each attempt to explain away the evidence was met with more documentation, more proof of systematic wrongdoing. The holographic displays showed a network of corruption that went far beyond this single incident. Vex Aren leaned forward, the crystalline structure of their body catching and refracting the light. "The council will now deliberate," they announced. As the teenagers returned to their seats, Sung Min placed a hand on Jae-hoon's shoulder. No words were needed. They had done something extraordinary. They had challenged an entire system and were winning. The fate of the Kregan administration hung in the balance, balanced on the testimony of 4 human teenagers who had refused to be silenced. The announcement came 3 standard galactic days after the hearing. Holographic screens across every human colony and diplomatic station displayed the Galactic Council's final ruling. Jae-hoon watched the broadcast with his friends in a small viewing room. Yoon-ah squeezed his hand as the lead judge's words echoed through the space. "The Kregan security forces are hereby found guilty of systematic discrimination, false imprisonment, and widespread corruption." The punishment was severe. The Kregan government would pay massive reparations to every traveler they had wrongly detained. Their entire diplomatic corps would be restructured. Top officials would be removed from power. More importantly, new laws would be created to protect travelers from all species. "We did it," Jae-won whispered, his voice a mix of disbelief and excitement. Sung Min Cho entered the room, a rare smile breaking across his usually serious face. "The diplomatic channels are buzzing," he told them. "What you 4 did has changed everything." News networks couldn't get enough of the story. Clips of the teenagers' calm testimony played on repeat. They became overnight heroes, not just for humans, but for travelers from dozens of alien species who had suffered similar mistreatments. The Vorlon Collective was especially vocal. Their lead diplomat gave a speech that went viral across communication networks. "These young humans showed us the true meaning of justice," she said. "They did not seek revenge. They sought truth." In the weeks that followed, the teenagers were invited to speak at conferences, universities, and diplomatic meetings. They weren't treated like victims anymore. They were treated like heroes. Yuna used her newfound platform to advocate for better cross-cultural understanding. Jae-hoon began working with technology teams to develop better communication and security systems that would prevent similar incidents. Jae-won started a foundation to support young travelers' rights. Hyun-ki became a key advisor to human diplomatic missions. The Kregan government's attempt to silence 4 teenagers had backfired completely. Instead of suppressing their voices, They had amplified them. Back on Earth, the story became a turning point. Schools began teaching about diplomatic courage. Parents told their children about the 4 teenagers who had stood up to an entire corrupt system. The incident became more than just a news story. It became a legend. During one of their final meetings with the Galactic Council, Vex Aran, the lead judge who had presided over their case, made a surprising statement. Humans have shown us something important. The crystalline being said, true strength is not about power. It is about standing up for what is right. The teenagers looked at each other. They had entered this journey as ordinary students. They were leaving it as something more, as symbols of hope and change. Their detention had lasted only 2 weeks, but those 2 weeks would change galactic politics forever. As they prepared to return home, Sung Min had one final piece of advice. Remember, he told them, your greatest weapon is not a weapon at all. It's your ability to speak truth, to remain calm, and to fight for justice. Jae-hoon looked out at the vast starscape beyond the viewing window. Something had changed, not just for them, but for everyone. The galaxy would never be the same again.